Good evening and welcome to CYC News for today, the 1st of June 2014 and the 24th of Bashan 17:30 AM. I'm Julie Victor.
And I'm Andrew Nada. In today's headlines, a landslide victory in Egypt's elections for Field Marshal Abdel Fattah El-Sisi. Husband of a Sudanese Christian woman accused of apostasy says his wife gave birth in chains. And Ignatius Aphrem II is enthroned as a Syriac Orthodox Patriarch of Antioch. Also, an Egyptian constitutional expert speaks out against discrimination. King Abdullah says Jordan is keen on Christian presence in the Middle East, and the search for the missing Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 continues.
Former Defence Minister Abdel Fattah El-Sisi will be Egypt's next president after winning more than 90% of the vote in Egyptian presidential elections on Thursday. Initial numbers suggested that more than 46% of Egypt's 53 million eligible voters participated. The scale of El-Sisi's victory came as no surprise after Egypt's top generals, media personalities and business elite united to present the former army chief as the only patriotic choice. As few as 3.5% voted for his opponent, the Labour activist Hamdeen Sabahi. In a new tradition, Sabahi publicly announced his defeat, saying that he accepted that the unofficial results indicated that Abdel Fattah El-Sisi was the victor. The final and official result of the election is to be announced no later than June 5th. Thousands of Copts voted despite intimidation from Muslim Brotherhood members. Dozens of Brotherhood members in Alminia organised a march on Monday morning, roaming the streets where Copts live, to prevent them from voting in the presidential election. They chanted slogans against Copts, Pope Tawadros, the army and the police, and set off fireworks on the homes of Copts to frighten them.
Sudanese woman Maryam Yahya Ibrahim, who was accused of apostasy from Islam and sentenced to death, delivered her second baby inside a Khartoum prison under appalling conditions, according to her husband Daniel Wani. Wani said his wife gave birth to their baby girl with her legs shackled at the assistance of the Sudanese authorities. He said he was also refused permission to see his wife and their 18-month-old child after she delivered, but was finally allowed to enter the jail on Wednesday, when authorities removed the chains from her legs. Maryam was sentenced to death earlier this month on charges of apostasy from Islam, because her father is Muslim, although her mother is Christian. Despite being heavily pregnant, she had been kept shackled in a cell in a Khartoum prison and was not allowed to leave the prison to give birth in a hospital. Her husband has not been allowed to see her for 2 weeks, but he said that he would try to see her and his baby tomorrow. Wani, a biochemist, has muscular dystrophy, which confines him to a wheelchair. He has US citizenship and lives for part of the year in New Hampshire, and the couple were married in 2011. Wani has appealed against the judgment issued against his wife and is waiting to hear the outcome. If that appeal fails, he said he plans to take his case to Sudan's High Court.
Ignatius Aphrem II Karim was on Thursday enthroned as the Syriac Orthodox Patriarch of Antioch at the Aphrem Monastery in Ma'arat, Sayyidnaya, Damascus. Many bishops participated in his enthronement, declaring him to be the Patriarch during the liturgy of the Feast of the Ascension. Karim declared his loyalty to the Orthodox faith before God and his angels and before the whole Church. On Wednesday, in his weekly sermon, Pope Tawadros II, Pope and Patriarch of Alexandria, congratulated Patriarch Ignatius Aphrem II. In attendance at Karim's enthronement was a delegation from the Coptic Orthodox Church, including Metropolitan Bishoy of Domyat, Kafr Sheikh, and the Monastery of St. Damiana, Bishop Apollo of South Sinai, Bishop Theodosius, General Bishop for Giza, Father Basilius Sophie, priest of the Church of the Virgin Mary in Zaytun, and Secretary of the Coptic Orthodox Theological Seminary in Cairo, and Gerges Saleh, former Secretary General of the Middle East Council of Churches and a teacher of theology at the Institute of Coptic Studies. Patriarch Ignatius Aphrem Karim was elected on March 31, 2014, succeeding the late Patriarch Zaka, and first was departed on March 21, 2014.
Noor Farhat, a constitutional expert and leader of the Egyptian Social Democratic Party, called for Egypt's next president to issue a law to criminalize discrimination. Fattah suggested forming an anti-discrimination commission and enacting a law that would require the House of Representatives to be balanced and represent all political beliefs. On his personal account on Facebook, Fattah called for Egypt's new leader El-Sisi to expeditiously form a government that could overcome the security and economic crises from which Egypt suffers.
King Abdullah of Jordan said his country is supportive of the historical Christian presence in the Palestinian territories and the Middle East. The king's statement came during a meeting at the Royal Palace on Tuesday with bishops and other representatives from the Orthodox Church around the world, days after Roman Catholic Pope Francis's visit. The delegation consisted of representatives from the Orthodox Church in Russia, Georgia, Bulgaria, Serbia, Romania, Cyprus and Finland, in addition to the Patriarchate of Jerusalem, which launched the invitation for the pilgrimage to the site of the baptism of Jesus Christ on the banks of the Jordan River. According to Al-Ray News website, King Abdullah said during the meeting, "Your meeting at the baptism site for peace bears great historical significance for all of us. The past few days have presented a message of coexistence and tolerance." The king stressed his full support for the Orthodox Church and that he would do everything in his power to stand by her, pointing out that Jordan is an excellent model for fraternity and coexistence between Muslims and Christians. King Abdullah believed that Pope Francis's visit to the kingdom was an important step on the road to strengthening the bonds of brotherhood and tolerance between Muslims and Christians. In his speech during the meeting, Patriarch Theophilus of Jerusalem extended thanks to the king on behalf of the other patriarchs of the Orthodox Church for his commitment to promotion of harmony and brotherhood among people of all religions. The Patriarch pointed out that this meeting is a confirmation of the historical relationship between Muslims and Christians religiously, culturally and socially.
According to the Australian newspaper, an area of the Indian Ocean searched after a series of acoustic signals has now been discounted as the final resting place of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. Searchers have for weeks scanned the ocean floor in the hunt for the debris from the missing jet, after authorities announced the detection of a series of pings, a likely clue to the location of the airliner's black box or flight recorders. However, the Joint Agency Coordination Centre today said that searches of the ocean floor by a Bluefin 21 submarine had discovered no aircraft debris in the vicinity of the pings, which were first detected in early April. The statement further deepens the mystery of Flight 370, which disappeared on March 8 with 239 people on board, and will further extend the agony of their relatives who are desperate for closure.
Brazil and Croatia will kick off the 2014 World Cup with their Group A match on June 12th at Arena de Sao Paulo in what promises to be a particularly exciting tournament for hundreds of millions of television viewers worldwide. But FIFA Secretary General Jerome Valcke expressed his concern this week about 3 of the 12 World Cup stadiums as he ended his final inspection of host cities on Thursday. After a 2-week trip across Brazil for a last check on preparations, he sent warnings to organisers in Natal, Porto Alegre and Sao Paulo, which will host the World Cup's opening match in 2 weeks. Valcke said it was a race against the clock in Natal and there was a lot yet to be done in Porto Alegre. In Sao Paulo, FIFA requested the second test event at the delayed Itaquera Stadium that will host the Brazil-Croatia opener on June 12th.
According to BBC News, sleeping in a room with too much light has been linked to an increased risk of obesity. A team at the Institute of Cancer Research in London has found women had larger waistlines if their bedroom was light enough to see across at night. However, they caution there is not enough evidence to advise people to buy thicker curtains or turn off the lights. The study of 113,000 women was published in the American Journal of Epidemiology. One possible explanation is that the light disrupts our body clocks, which stems from our past when we were active, when it was light in the day, and resting when it was dark at night. Light alters mood, physical strength, and even the way we process food in a 24-hour cycle. Artificial light is known to disrupt the body clock by delaying the production of the sleep hormone, melatonin.
And that's all for CYC News today. Stay tuned for more Christian content on CYC. I'm Julie Victor.
And I'm Andrew Nutter, and from the CYC studios of Sydney, Australia, good night and God bless.